Roseann here with me today, and I'm going to give Dr. Roseann a proper background and introduction. But, one of the things I like to do, Dr. Roseann, because this is the connection series and it's all about helping families be more connected. Before I, kind of go into the deeper part of your story and your bio and what it is you're up to, just to kick us off, what's one thing that if you were to say would help families be more connected right now, in your opinion? What's one thing that you could share with families to help them be more connected right now?
I would say, really, it's the same thing I probably say all the time, but even more than ever, it is, I don't know what happened there. It's having fun. Like, take a moment and have fun. It doesn't matter how stressful things are for everybody right now or whatever is going on with you. You can and should take time as a family to have fun, whatever that is. In our house, we do a lot of disco dancing.
Love that.
And we have a karaoke machine set up in our kitchen. I mean, we try to have fun. And I think it's really important for people to give themselves permission to do that. I mean, so many awesome things happen when you have fun. Endorphins get released, and it's a great role model for kids. It feels great for you, and I love to have fun. And I think being a special needs mom, and there's been times where it's been like literally a nightmare.
Yeah.
That incorporating that, it's our way anyway, the Hodge way. But I think that people are really sort of embracing that in this time of Corona, and I love it. And I think you need to do that and make it part of your daily ritual.
I'm so glad you said that. You're the first guest we've had on that was the first piece of advice they gave of how to help families be more connected, is to have fun. And I love that you said that, because it's a good reminder to me. I'm experiencing, what's everything that's happened with the quarantine is like, I've never been busier in my work. I've never been busier in my business. And so it's like, man, what a reminder to still like have fun and intentionally create fun in your family.
And it can be small moments, Chris.
Totally.
So we all think it's like, oh, it means you have to do this and whatever. We can't create a vacation right now,
right,
or a whole family event or whatever. So take the small moments and try to have fun and laugh. It's so wonderful. It feels so good. It's such a great way to connect. It really is,
So one of the things I love about that is within the family brand framework, which you and I've talked about, and we're going to roll that out as a course to have for families to go through to build their family's brand. But we teach that your family brand is built, consists of three things: culture, language, and experiences. And two things that I wanted to comment on. There is a seriousness to this, obviously, with families. We believe every family can define what it is they stand for, and every family can declare what it is they're going to be known for. And by creating their family's brand and then doing that, not only are you going to build a culture that will impact your family now, you're building a culture that can impact generations and influence them to come. And yet, with all of that emphasis on the intentionality of this and the stakes are high with family, we also want it to be really fun. And one of the things that we help families create in the experiences side is what we call the connection blueprint. And it's all these things that just have a family be connected. And it's like, what are the things that we do that has our family work? Or when our family's really working, what are the things that are present for us? And one of the things we realized in building out the connection blueprint is how many things that we identified that have us be connected that we weren't intentionally doing as often as we could, just because we'd never identified them. And one of the things that when you said it can be simple, another thing that we have you do in the experiences is connection blueprint, but then we have you take an inventory of your traditions and maybe see, are you doing them because they really serve your family and have you be connected? Or are you doing them just because you've always done them? Our kids' favorite traditions. And then we had a conversation around their favorite trips. Not one of our kids said Disney World. Not one of our kids said like really extravagant vacations that we spent a lot of money on. All of our kids' favorite traditions and favorite trips was camping, bow and arrow fights with Nerf guns in the backyard, going to a small town in Northern Arizona every 4th of July for a rodeo and a small town parade. I think there's some insight into like kids just want to have connection and fun, and they don't need big extravagant like experiences or vacations to do it. And that was a real eye opener for us. And part of me was kind of like, why in the heck did we spend all that money on Disney World? It wasn't even our kids' favorite, you know. And there's like, there's a time and place for those kinds of vacations and trips, you know.
Yeah.
But I love
hey,
this
the
idea.
Hodges like Disney World. We've been annual pass holders. We're waiting for the Star Wars hotel.
That's awesome.
I'm just telling you. So,
Yeah.
you know, we have a whole crew of us are waiting for the Star Wars hotel.
But see, that's really important to your family. And so like, if you guys
we
identified
love Star
that.
Wars. Yeah, absolutely. But you know, the thing is, it is those little moments that add up that you incorporate. And I love what you say, because sometimes we do things all the time and then we don't identify how important they are. And so, you know, prior to this, Chris and I were talking about, we refer to ourselves as Team Hodge in our house, right? We have a lot of traditions because
I'm gonna write that down.
We have values and there's things we openly talk about. And I'm first generation American. My parents are from Italy, and you know, they're these entrepreneurial Italians. You know, food was medicine. I had like a really interesting culture growing up in sort of this very, very suburban area. Like my friends would tell me, like, you're the ethnic. It's so funny. Like I was just an Italian American. It was just very, you know, straight mixed.
Totally.
You know, Americans that like weren't first generation American where I grew up. So we had a different way of doing things, and traditions are really important. And so I married somebody, the Hodges, and in their genealogy, the Hodges came over 15 years after the Mayflower. And, you know, my husband's lineage, you know, goes way back, but he's American. He's like truly an American culture, even though they're from Northern Vermont and it has their own culture. So we really took purposely, like, what are the traditions from each of our families? And, you know, you're so funny you say this, Chris, because my kids are so into some of our traditions. So, you know, in our Italian culture, we bring a lot of food traditions. And my kids are foodies. And food is huge for us. Like, we pick vacations based on food. Like, it's really that serious. And
it's awesome.
We, for the first time, went away at Christmas break. And it's usually a very busy time for me, and I never can go away. And so I redid things, and I no longer do the thing that made it so busy. And we went with friends. And we have a huge tradition in our house, and I've done it ever since before my kids were born. And we host Christmas Eve. And it's basically anybody can come, and we do the Italian American tradition of the 7 fishes. And so it's not from Italy, it's truly Italian American. So we do all these different seafood dishes. My kids love it. Like, it's awesome. It's a lot of fun. It's very chill. It's very relaxed. And so I had said to my kids, like, hey, let's go to St. Kitts early, like our other friends. They were like, oh, what about the 7 fishes? I mean, of course not. Like, and I actually was surprised because I thought they wanted to go on our fancy vacation. No.
Totally.
They were like, we don't care about that. That's what you want, Mom. I mean, they had a great time, don't get me wrong, but the tradition was so important for them. And it's really important to me. Like, I grew up my whole life with the 7 fishes. And for me, it's about everybody truly loving my food. It's an amazing meal. But just the connection that comes out of it and how fun it is, you know? My friends plan their vacations around my 7 fishes.
Totally. No, it's so amazing. So I want to just say welcome, Philip, Stephanie, Kane, all of you guys who are joining us live here with Dr. Roseann. And I asked her a question of, you know, what can families do right now to be more connected? And she said they can have fun. And then that led us into this conversation around experiences, traditions. One of the things that we have families do in the 3rd pillar of the family brand framework is it's under experiences, and we have you just take an inventory of your traditions. So I want you guys to start a watch party if you're watching this. Like Dr. Roseann has already dropped some amazing nuggets and some things that you can implement in your family. So start a watch party on your page. You can go, you know, like us on Facebook at the Family Brand to follow more interviews and the connection series with amazing people like Dr. Roseann. You know, one of the things that was interesting is being this whole idea of experiences and having, like, what are the things that has your family connect? Or where was there a time in your family where you were really connected, and then what was present? Like, what had you be so connected? And then taking an inventory of your traditions. When we did it, Roseann, one of the things that we realized, specifically speaking around Christmas, is we were like, man, we are way busier than we want to be around Christmas time. Like, how does that happen? Like, how have we allowed this to happen? And, it's easy because it's like, well, this family wants to have you over for gingerbread houses, and this family wants you to have you over cookies, and this family wants you, and all of those things are amazing and they're all fun and we want to do all of them. But we had to step back as a family and just be like, man, what traditions really align with our little family unit and which ones don't? And like, give ourselves permission to be like, to say no to some of them. And like, because if we're not careful, we just let these things, but kind of run us. And so it's really about being intentional about like, how do we intentionally create fun? How do we intentionally create traditions? And there's a lot of research that shows the power of family traditions, that they can foster a real deep sense of belonging and identity within kids. And so that's what I love about these connection series interviews. I never know. I always have an idea what we're going to talk about based on the expert guest we have, but like, I didn't know we would talk about fun and traditions today, but it really is. And there's ways to like, obviously there's an opportunity for every family to have spontaneous fun, but there's also ways to like intentionally plan in fun, like to plan in like times where it's just for fun and it's just like these traditions and they can be one and the same.
And like at our house, we with our youngest, we try to power off at 7. It's getting a little later in the time of Corona, but certainly by 8 o'clock. And then we really try to do fun things, and like it could be anything from like last night we had an Uno battle, and then I finally won, so I did a full-on victory dance because I haven't won in weeks. I feel like the two of them are in cahoots and scamming me.
That's awesome.
And it's really, we do really try to have fun. And as I mentioned, I have a child who has chronic Lyme and PANDAS, and at different points it's been really hard. And so, these things sort of make and break you as a marriage, as a family. And so for us, it really strengthened our bond as a couple and as a family. And we had to cut and chop and decide what was the most important. And that has been, for every hardship, there's a blessing. And
Totally.
that has been a blessing for us. And, but we do really, my husband and I really like to have fun in little bits all the time. And I do that as Dr. Roseann. Anybody who comes to see me knows that we're going to have fun. Our staff, like everybody who I hire has to be a fun person.
It's awesome.
They just do. And what does that mean? It means that, they can embrace the moment, and it doesn't mean that they are having a party every minute, but it means you can be present. And I think that's the part about when you have to have fun and you have to have those little moments. It means that we are all engaged in that moment. And that's what kids feel, right? Kids will say, you're on your phone. And guess what? They're probably right. And so, that's where that communication comes in. And I've learned with my kids to say, can I set a timer for 5 minutes? I'm going to finish this. And then it really gives them a clear indication. And then I honor that. I do it. And that's the other part. And when I am working, like we're all working from home right now with our kids, and for those people that aren't homeschoolers, this is a completely new thing for them, and it's not really homeschooling because you didn't plan for it. You're just doing home-based learning. But you have to have moments where you really are engaged, because that's where connection comes from. That's where communication comes from. That's where trust comes from. And without that, if you're sitting there and you're both on your devices, I'm not saying you never can do that, but there has to be these real moments. And it's so important for both of you, because when you need to really connect, when something bad goes down, something you don't expect, it's going to be a lot harder to have communication if you haven't been practicing all along.
One of the things I love about that is that I could even see, if you guys don't already, but having a family value, if that, it sounds like that's really important to you, that Hodges have fun. And one of the things that we teach, is for those of you watching, what we're talking about right now is like, look, the power of like connection in a family that happens, and how families can be more connected when they're having fun. They're going to be more connected. And then, look at the experiences that you guys have and start to write them down. Like, hey, this is times when we really have fun, or these are, and then when you're taking an inventory of your traditions as a family, like really pay attention to the inventory, pay attention to the traditions that have you be most connected and the traditions where you're having the most fun together. But one of the things that we teach, Dr. Roseann, is when we're helping a family create their family values and family brand, we're really big believers that there's a power in connecting your last name to the value. So what we've seen a lot of companies do, or some families, they'll say our mission is, our vision is, our values are, right? And they list that there's nothing wrong with that. It's powerful. We intentionally have families that go through the process start their mission, or we call it your big idea of impact, off with we believe, and then state the mission. And then when you're with your vision, it's not our vision is, it's we are committed to, right? So it's just, and then with the values, it's not just like, hey, our values are fun, love, connection. It's Hodges have fun. Hodges love one another. Hodges create connections. It's just that like power of the name, because that's a brand. We don't think about it that way.
Yeah. And, I think the other thing that's really powerful about what you said, Chris, is vision, right? So, you and I are entrepreneurs, and we know in that business world the power of the vision and how amazing it is when you have a vision, and actually how easy it is to manifest it with clarity and purpose and authenticity around your vision. And
Totally.
here's the thing. The same thing can happen for your family. And that's really what you're saying, is start with the vision and then really write it down. And it really is a transformation for people. And, there are so many things we do right. I think so many times we focus on all the things we do wrong. Here I am, a clinical, psychologist, and, I help people, reduce and reverse their issues using holistic therapy. So they come in and we're talking about all the things they're doing wrong, right? Because we really have to dig down and be like, okay, well, what do we got to change? But a lot of times you're doing so many things right, they can't see it, right?
Yeah.
And I was talking to somebody yesterday who's close to me and is at a point of transformation, has really made a lot of change in 10 months. And something positive really had happened in this young man's life. And he actually was so nervous about it because he spent so much time growing up being pointed out to what he did wrong. And he couldn't see the progress. And, I was grateful that we had this conversation, because I was able to be like, okay, so what are all the awesome things you've done this year? And he was able to see that. And I was like, okay, so your family, you already know your family is a scarcity mindset. They loving, wonderful people, but they like to point out what you're doing wrong. You're breaking that cycle, right? Which is a lot about what you're doing. So let's flip that dialogue. Like, he was actually journaling the bad things he was doing. And I was like, what are you doing? I was like, no more 3 positive things. And what is your vision? That's it. And, in literally a day, he was like, wow, I feel so much better. I was like, okay, I'm a psychologist. But
it's amazing.
This is anything anybody can do. Who can't do that? So create that vision of what you want for your family first, and then break it down. And that's really what I'm hearing, Chris, is a big part of your program.
Yeah, because, what's interesting is like that scarcity mindset that exists in that family. A lot of times we wouldn't see it this way. We wouldn't look at it like you'd look at it in a business. Like if there's a scarcity mindset that exists in a business, well, it's been created by the culture and whatever brand exists. And it's not good or bad, right or wrong. Like you said, sounds like really loving parents, loving family. Just this culture and this mindset of scarcity was part of the family's brand. Now, not intentionally, kind of by default, and it had been passed along. But that's what's so interesting to me. What's so scary and what's so promising is that every home, just like every business, every home has a culture in it. Every home has a brand. Every family, that name, your last name, means something. Now, the decision, though, that we all get to make is, are we going to do it by design and be intentional? Or are we just going to do it by default and just let it happen? And what I love about that story of this young man is what had been happening is just by default, like just letting it happen. Just like, well, this is just kind of what's always happened. And then you're waking him up to this idea of what I have back here on my sign, pick up the pen, literally and figuratively. And like, you decide what it is you stand for. You decide what it is your family's going to be known for going forward, and like literally recreate that brand. and then use that brand to influence the culture just no differently than you would in an organization. We just don't do it in homes and families. I
We
myself
don't,
am.
because we feel that, like people think their genetics define them. Guess what? They don't. And that's what I teach people every day, how to reverse that in their children, even when there is a genetic issue. It doesn't have to. But we recognize in our awesomeness of where we are as human beings, and just the evolution of, here I am, and I think about, there's been a lot of negatives that have happened in the last 30 years I've been in mental health, but there's also been a lot of positives, because people realize that they can control their thoughts. They can empower themselves. And that's what's really incredible. But they don't realize that, first of all, it really starts with intention and practice. So you can't say, well, I wish. You have to do the work, but it doesn't have to be, like, this is my lifestyle. This is who I am. This is just sort of always in a way of who I was. I was fortunate enough to be raised by imperfect parents, but one of the gifts they gave me was power of, there were no limits of what I could do. I literally didn't know there was a limit on what I could do until I went out into the world as an adult. People would be like, you're a girl.
Yeah.
And just say dumb things to me, and I'd be like, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, thank goodness I literally was like inoculated to it. Like, whatever, that's your issue. But these little bits of things that we do to empower and put these positive things, or whatever our family's values are, and no family value is wrong, right? So as long as it's a positive thing, it doesn't harm anybody. We just have to be intentful in our words and what we convey, and in our practice of them. And I know so many people, including Oprah Winfrey, like, who've gone through like these horrible things in their lives, but somehow their resilience shines through. And, it all started with them and in their own intentful thinking, and how much they can change their lives, and then the footprint, around them is really powerful. So, but yeah, it's true. Businesses do this because they have to, and families don't realize they can.
Yeah, totally. So we're running out of time here, and I could talk to you. Like, I already know you and I have had a few conversations. We could talk for hours without coming up for air. So you have this amazing center. You've served probably hundreds, if not thousands, of families over the 25 years, parents, children, teenagers, whole families. Share one thing with us, because I know that a huge part of what you do in your center and just transforms families' lives is around mental health with children. And I know that that's something that a lot of, families that either had, how do I say this? Families who had a child where that was already something they were working on prior to the quarantine that's now been heightened, or for a lot of us, maybe something that we weren't working on or wasn't maybe present in our children, but now we have this opportunity to be more aware of their feelings and their emotions and their mental well-being because of so much uncertainty in their worlds. And I know that I'm putting you on the spot here because this is a huge conversation. Give us one thing that we could all be doing as parents and families around just the mental well-being of our children.
Thank you for bringing up this question, and you can ask me any question, because
I know, Roseann,
literally can talk all day.
Yes.
This is a very easy answer. Okay, so I have helped thousands of people, and I'm going to tell you the answer is, don't ignore the signs. So many parents, we beat ourselves up, especially mothers, and they are full of regret. And they were like, I saw this at 5, I saw this at 15. I'm going to tell you, children show you very clearly that they are struggling. And sometimes parents ask for help. Like 34% of all doctors' visits are related to some type of serious mental health concern. I mean, the numbers are staggering, right? That's why I created the Global Institute of Children's Mental Health, because I am changing the way we view and treat children's mental health. We're going to teach parents how to change it, because they can. So don't ignore the signs. What are the signs? So look for things like difficulty sleeping, changes in behavior, stomach aches, vomiting, headaches, worried, repeated questions, pulling back when they're in a group, frustration, anger, all those things. The signs are there and young. And so it doesn't mean that your kid who at 5 is still temper tantruming like a 2-year-old, that their lives are going to be horrible. What it means is address it. And we know that early intervention is so dramatic in the trajectory of a person's life in every area, reading disabilities, any emotional, social, behavioral. Get help, find a licensed provider in your area, or you can take my course. It's going to be okay to start, because there's a lot of things you can do at home. Don't ignore the signs.
That's amazing.
I'm getting college kids, 40% of college freshmen in college either flunk out or leave. And these are kids from, don't think because your kids got good grades, they don't have a problem. That's another big part of this. So parents in this time of COVID, the questions are different now when people are calling us. Our phone rings off the hook anyway. They are all saying the same thing. I kind of thought there was a problem. Now it's clear. So you're home, you're with your kids. I want to say, don't ignore. There is a lot you can do, and it's very positive and healthy and natural. And, it doesn't have to be the end of the world. In fact, it can be just such a beautiful blossoming when you get your kids the help that they need.
It's amazing. Yeah. And the last thing I would add to that is that it's one thing to recognize these signs. And then it's another thing I would probably guess, Roseann, to have the type of relationship and the type of culture in your home that when you do recognize them, you go to your children, they feel safe to talk to you about it. So like one of the family values we have, and we don't do it perfectly. And it's not a family value because we've achieved it. It's a family value because we're striving, but it's Smiths can talk about anything without judgment. And one of the things that we want to create in that is create space in our home. And that's one of the things we talk about in the culture part of the framework of family brand, is creating space where every member of the family feels like safe to be seen, heard, and valued. And they can talk about anything. They're not going to be judged for it. And we do a weekly check-in with each of our kids, which is a tip I got from a culture book on really great cultures. And the weekly check-in is 5 to 10 minutes, one-on-one with each of our kids, 2-on-1, my wife and I. And we ask them 2 questions. What are you working on this week that's important to you? And how can we help you? But in the time of quarantine and COVID, we've added a third question that's we'll keep it going here on out. And it's, how are you feeling? Mm-hmm. And just really giving our kids space to say, like, I'm feeling great. I'm feeling bad. I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling purposeless. I'm feeling like it's one thing to ask the question and then, really grant them the space. But that question of like, how are you feeling, to our 12-year-old led him to say about 2 weeks into the quarantine, like, I'm kind of feeling purposeless, which I was like, from a 12-year-old, like, purposeless, right? Like, I was like, wow, tell me more about that, buddy. Like, what's going on? He's like, well, I can't go to jujitsu. I'm not seeing my friends. I'm like, I took for granted how much of his identity it's been stripped away. I still have quite a bit of my identity. I can get on and work, and I can do Zoom calls, and I can, I have my relationship with my wife. And so we just said, well, what would help you feel more purposeful? And it was his idea. And he said, I think it would be fun to do a family workout every morning. So, and I'm like, one of our family values is Smiths are healthy and active. Why have we never had a family workout anyways? Like, so we, most mornings, I'd say 4 or 5 mornings a week now, 8:30, it's built on the family schedule. We do a family workout, and it's not only helped him, just fun. Like our whole family, it's like, but had we not asked him, how are you feeling? And again, it kind of perked me up to like, man, that's a question, I really wish we would have been asking much sooner, and we'll ask it.
There's so much what I love about what you say, and I won't go on, but by opening the door to feeling words, you are empowering your child. You're teaching them to pay attention to what their body and mind is telling them, and they're listening to it instead of shoving it down. And that will serve them for the rest of their life in every kind of capacity, a work relationship, a love relationship, a friendship, and in their own mental health, because you're teaching them words that are feelings, and that it's okay to have all kinds of feelings.
Yeah.
And if they get stuck in a feeling that feels uncomfortable, they'll know to get a lifeline.
Yeah.
And you're creating that dialogue. It's beautiful.
Well, thank you.
Good job, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we're you know, I kind of have this theory. One time someone asked me like, man, you guys are so intentional with your family and it's so awesome. You created family brand. And I was like, hey, look, you got to understand something. We are as imperfect as anyone. We are not taking family brand out to the world because we're some perfected body of work. Like, we're taking family brand out to the world because it's made a difference for us. And it forces us to stay in the conversation. And it's like, look, the way I approach it, Roseann, is like, oh, it's not about not messing up my kids. It's like messing them up as little as I can. It's like, I know I'm doing things to mess them up. I know I'm doing things that they're going to have to like work around and work on later in life. I'm just trying to do as little as possible. Right.
Yeah. I always joke with my kids. I'm like, whenever they get mad at me, you know, I'm like, you can save that and talk about it with your therapist later. You know, like, you know, we're imperfect people.
Totally.
And that's really okay. And a lot of lessons come out of the messes. You know what I mean? So
I love that. Lessons out of the messes. So Dr. Roseann, you guys, we've been talking about really 3 things, like how to have fun as a family and why fun is so critical to connection as a family. And Dr. Roseann is, you know, really successful doctor, psychologist, has a practice. She's had a center for 25 years, served thousands of families, super, super, super successful in what she does. So if there's anyone that you would, you know, want to take their advice around having fun and the power of it, it's from Dr. Roseann. We've talked about the power of creating a vision for your family and not allowing the previous family culture or the previous family mindset that just get passed on to you if it doesn't serve you. Like, you can create a new family culture and a new family vision. And then we talked about this last piece, which to me is so critical, is how to recognize these signs when your children are struggling, but not just recognize it, to then create space to do something about it and talk to your child about it. And so please, if you're watching this, share it, tag it with someone that could use, you know, a family member or a friend that you think could use something, you know, value from this. Like, the whole purpose of us doing the connection series is to have families be more connected, period. And that's why we bring on amazing experts. Dr. Roseann, we've shared your website. Is there any other tools or resources or things that we could, you know, offer from you to our community that would serve families?
Yeah, I mean, I have, this is a free event on Tuesday, May 19th. I have the #1 expert in the entire United States coming on to speak about children's special education. It's Pete Wright from Wright's Law. He literally wrote the book. So you can hop onto my webpage. It's a free event and register for it. It's so needed. And that's a whole other topic. But we're launching our course. It's going to be okay. And it's on my website. You can get onto www.drroseann.com. But this has been a great conversation. So needed every day, family connection, but more than ever, we need it now.
Thank you. Yeah. And I love the name of the course. It's going to be okay. Like, if there's one message to families, right, it's going to be okay. So guys, thank you again for tuning in. Thank you for all the feedback and the comments. So Dr. Roseann, if you want to follow the connection series going forward and have, you know, listen to more experts like Dr. Roseann, go to Facebook, like our Family Brand Facebook page. And then if you go on Facebook and you search Family Brand Community, you'll find our group. It's a free group. And if you join, we have a gift for you. We have a course for families. Dr. Roseann, thanks for coming on.
My pleasure. Thank you.